So find your posture. In the glorious light of a prairie morning, we sit. In comfort and discomfort, we sit. In the cloudiness of our questioning, we sit. In the midst of madness and confusion, we sit. With far too much to do, we sit. In the warm arms of our shared sorrow, we sit. In community and in loneliness, we sit. In the blazing energy of just being alive, we sit. Hearing the sparrow sing or the dog bark, we sit. Hearing the reverberating refrigerator or the soft wheeze of tinnitus, we sit. Just here, with our breath moving in, moving out, us in the sound and the sound in us in the world and the world in us. Okay, well, welcome back. Have a little stretch, whatever you need for your body. We've been examining the Lojong slogans. Today we're on the last of the absolute bodhicitta slogans, and I'm very happy about that because I find these slogans, well, they're about non-duality, really, I guess, and they're absolute, and they're hard to get my mind around. And when we get on to the relative bodhicitta slogans, should be more practical for our lives. So this slogan is in post-meditation, become a child of illusion. So that post-meditation would be any time when we're not meditating. Be a child of illusion. Norman Fisher says, this slogan is simply reminding us that the previous slogans, which all point to a sense of life quite different from the ordinary, and if you remember the previous slogans, the first one was regard everything as a dream, and then there was examine the nature of unborn awareness, and then there was don't get stuck on peace. You get too much stuck in the absolute. And this one, be a child of illusion, sounds very similar to me to regarding everything as a dream, but we'll see what these guys say. So he says this slogan should be practiced not only during meditation, but also in our ordinary engaged daily living. Spiritual practice requires a certain degree of childlike innocence. What could be more childlike, if not childish, than to believe that spiritual transformation is possible, that the world can be suffused with love, that one can enjoy a measure of happiness and peace in this crazy, suffering world we live in. The world is a harsh place. Acknowledging this, the slogan encourages us to be childlike anyway, to believe in illusion. This is not to say we should ignore the more difficult side of life or pretend it doesn't exist, only that we shouldn't let that side completely colonize our minds and hearts. A child's world is as real as any other. We have been practicing seeing everything as a dream, examining unborn awareness, and resting in the openness of mind. This slogan tells us to take those practices into our everyday lives and introduce an element of childlike delight. There are many ways to practice this. You can stop every now and then and look out the window. Whatever you see, take it in for a moment with wonder. Defamiliarize yourself for a moment. Let your usual mindset go and be amazed by what is immediately there in front of you. You can cultivate the habit of being a child of illusion and unhook yourself from conventional reality, because conventional reality is not the only reality. And then, so then Pema Chodron says, she's talking about the supports, how the slogans support our practice. These supports are often likened to a raft. You need a raft to cross the river to get to the other side. When you get over there, you leave the raft behind. That's an interesting image, but in experience, it's more like the raft gives out on you in the middle of the stream and you never really get to solid ground. This is what is meant by becoming a child of illusion. The child of illusion image seems apt because young children seem to live in a world in which things are not so solid. You see a sense of wonder in all young children, which they later lose. This slogan encourages us to be that way again. I read a book called The Holographic Universe, in which science is finding out that the material world isn't as solid as it seems. It's more like a hologram, vivid but empty at the same time. Being a child of illusion also has to do with beginning to encourage yourself not to be a walking battleground. Good and bad coexist. Sour and sweet coexist. They aren't really opposed to each other. The Buddha within is messy as well as clean. We generally interpret the world so heavily in terms of good and bad, happy and sad, that the world doesn't have a chance to speak for itself. When we say, be a child of illusion, we're beginning to get at this fresh way of looking where we're not caught up in our hope and our fear. Okay, and Trungpa Rinpoche says, illusion does not mean laziness, confusion, or mirage. Being a child of illusion means that you continue what you have experienced in your sitting practice, resting in the nature of alaya, resting in the openness of mind. You realize that after sitting practice, you do not have to solidify phenomena. Instead, you can continue your practice and develop some kind of ongoing awareness. If things become heavy and solid, you flash mindfulness and awareness into them. In that way, you begin to see that everything is pliable and workable. Your attitude is that the phenomenal world is not evil, that they are not out to get you. Everything is workable and soothing. You swim along in your phenomenal world. The basic idea of child of illusion is that there is lots of space. You do not feel claustrophobic. It's a very strong phrase, child of illusion. Think of it. Try to be one. You have plenty of opportunities. And then for a little different treatment of it, there's this teacher, Andrew Holisek. He's mostly studied with Tibetan teachers, I take it. So this is from Tricycle Magazine. What does it mean to become a child of illusion? What does it mean to see the world as illusory? Illusory has a very specific definition here. It doesn't mean that things don't exist. That is the near enemy of nihilism. There's reality, and there is the appearance of reality. The trajectory is to bring appearance in harmony with reality, form in resonance with emptiness. What that implies, therefore, is that we currently do not see things the way they truly are. This is what it means to be asleep in samsara. We don't see things the way they are. We see things the way we are, which is a common teaching in the Talmud among many other traditions. Reality is fluid, malleable, open, flowing, groundless. We call this emptiness. We freeze this reality, this fluid reality. We freeze it into concrete and steel. Then we wonder why the world is so hard. A very interesting thought experiment here is to imagine you are in a theater. You're watching an incredible cinematic display. The movie completely sucks you in. You get so into it. You're laughing, you're crying, you're living within the context of the movie because it's so captivating. So imagine you're sitting in the front row of some winning production, Gone with the Wind or whatever. You're in it. You're totally captivated by what's happening. Then all of a sudden, the walls of the theater fall away. The roof is blown off. You find this movie, this display still taking place. But now it's taking place in a vastly different arena, a vastly different context of openness. The movie is still there, Gone with the Wind is still playing, but you're no longer captivated by it because you have reframed it in a much larger and more spacious and accommodating perspective. You feel the wind, you hear things around you. Your awareness is so much larger than just what's happening on this screen. So children, that's all. I'll open it up for anyone who has any thoughts about this. Oh, I wanted to read one last bit here. Did I read this yet? No, this is what Norman says about the 5 slogans of absolute bodhicitta. Practicing them expands the space we are living in, breaking down walls we've been putting up for so long. walls that have been causing pain and sorrow and loneliness. Each of us could be a source of joy. Maybe you know someone who is like this, and whenever you are with this person, you feel happy. A person like this is a blessing for the world, and there is no reason why you couldn't be that person. Resting childlike in openness of mind, in this dreamlike life, you will feel protected and at peace. You will feel not only that you are loved, but that love is built into the nature of what you are and what the world is. Knowing this, you can risk caring and loving. You don't need to be afraid anymore. You will not be hurt. Your love will be received, and it will always be healing. Knowing this is so, you can begin to practice relative bodhicitta. So with that, we finish this slogans of absolute bodhicitta. So. Well, it looks like it's noon, but Keiko, I'd love to hear from you how you've been, and have you been away, or do you have anything to say about being a child of illusion?
I've been traveling quite extensively, and this whole trip is an illusion again. And I really enjoyed your reading, John. I appreciate, especially first couple references you read. It just hit to my core. That's exactly I've been thinking. And anyway, we are human body, physical being with spirit, or a spiritual being in physical body. I think it comes to the end. And I have a question. Why we say child of illusion? If this reality is illusion, our creation, why don't we call being of illusion or adult of illusion? It really doesn't make any differences, but why we put so much emphasis in child of the illusion? That's what I've been wondering. And after all my questions, what I'm talking about, my trip, everything in the past, as I speak in a second, again, it's illusion, isn't it?
We're passing memory. Okay, well, with that, we will do our chant and finish up, I guess. That's okay. Caught in a self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's wave.